Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Local News. Lloydminster fire crews were called to an active fire Friday night that involved a number of fire crew members. The fire was in an apartment building on the 5100 block of 31st Street on the second floor and third floor balconies, where the flames caused damage to the exterior of the building. Everyone in the building at the time were safely evacuated with no reported injuries. The tenants of 8 units have been working with Red Cross and Victim Services to find temporary living arrangements. The fire is not believed to be a crime of arson and is currently under investigation. There are 4 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan. 1 is in the Saskatoon area, 1 in the Central East, 1 in the Southwest, and 1 in the South Central Zone. 34 cases are considered active. 8 of those are in the zone that includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 3 people are in hospital, 2 of those in intensive care. 12 more people have recovered. It is time now for this week's edition of Retrospect. Here's Blake Nath.
This week in Retrospect. Back in '95, the border city celebrates the 90th anniversary of the inception of the provinces.
As you glance around at what Lloydminster is now, it's hard to believe it ever looked like this. 90 years ago, it wasn't the border city, but a small bar colony settlement. When plans began to divide the western half of the country into provinces, there were many ideas. 1 huge western province, 3 provinces, or an Alberta-Saskatchewan with a border that would run east and west. But when the current plan was adopted, with the provincial border running down the 110th meridian, it wasn't exactly popular with the bar colonists. The founder of the colony, Reverend Lloyd, wrote to the Alberta Premier saying, quote, "This would be a very serious matter for us, tragically ruining our town just as it's begun to grow." But his plea fell on deaf ears, and that changed Lloydminster forever.
Changed the way the town operated, made 2 towns and 2 provinces, a situation that wasn't fixed up until 1930, until orders in council in both provinces made this 1 municipality instead of 2 separate ones.
And in 2000, Cold Lake hosts a training exercise for Naval Reserve divisions around the country.
This may look like Canada's west coast, but in fact, it is the Midwest. The waters of Cold Lake played host over the weekend to various Naval Reserve divisions from across Western Canada. For some, an exercise in basic seamanship.
Also, there's another aspect that Naval Reserve is in charge of called harbor defense, and that's obviously, as the name implies, is for defending harbors in time of hostilities or for a terrorist attack or whatever. And so there's certain evolutions that we train for as well with small boats.
Cold Lake proved to be an ideal location, offering the facilities necessary for such an exercise. And the participants hail from a number of Naval Reserve divisions in places like Edmonton and Saskatoon.
We have people that have been doing this for 10 years, for 15 years. We have people that have only been doing it for a year. So we have all different experience levels out there. So obviously the more experienced people are teaching the newer people what to do, and also it's a chance for the experienced people to get their hands back on the machinery again and get experienced with it.
And that's it for this week in Retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Now we're Connor Chan. We'll take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at our temperatures right now, we're starting to get a little bit cooler right now on our daytime highs, sitting right now at 17 degrees. We also see a lot more wind, though, for the last couple of days. We definitely saw a lot of that yesterday, where it was a very, very gusty day. As we take a look now at areas around our, other temperatures around our area, 17 degrees also for Vermilion and Edmonton as well, 16 in St. Paul, Marwayne, and in Vegreville and Cold Lake. We also see 17 down in Provost and 18 degrees for Macklin right now. And then North Battleford sitting at 17 as well, with St. Walburg sitting at 15 and 16 for Meadow Lake and in Maidstone. Now, as we take a look at the satellite radar map, we could be seeing some showers possibly early in the next couple of days or so. But right now, lots of cloud coverage in that Edmonton area that could make its way over into our area in that Lloydminster area as well. There is a little bit of some activity going on in that Cold Lake, just up in the northern areas, just outside of the city there. But as we take a look at regional temperatures right now, as we go a little bit more in depth, North Battleford overnight with overnight at 10 degrees going tomorrow, 19 the daytime high, with a little bit of sun and some cloud coverage there. As we look at the Cold Lake, some cloud coverage continuing on from right now overnight with 10 degrees as the daytime high, going into 19 tomorrow with over 30-kilometer-an-hour winds expected from the west-northwest there for tomorrow at 19. And then for us here in Lloydminster, we could see the same results with the same amount of wind that we could be seeing with 19 degrees, but also a daytime high with a high, of 11 overnight with some cloud coverages. We are starting to see a lot cooler mornings ahead of us here. So here's what the next 3 days look like. We could see that rain coming in on Wednesday. So we'll get that cloud coverage coming in later parts of Tuesday evening into Wednesday, as we are expected that rain at that high of 15 degrees with us 2 to 4 millimeters expected for Wednesday there. 19 on Thursday with mostly sun and a cloud mix there. And then we see a low of 6 degrees there as we are starting to get very, very cooler in the mornings. But that's a first look at your weather forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
It has been a trying year for beef producers across Canada, and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association is providing an update on the industry as we head into the fall. Eric Bay has more.
Summer has allowed many Canadian cattle producers to get back on track after multiple meat processing plants were closed due to COVID-19 earlier in the spring, and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association has announced their focus for this fall.
Currently, we're working on the removal of the reference margin limit and the $3 million payment cap on agri-stability. We also recognize that the Western Livestock Price Insurance Program is a hugely valuable tool to the beef industry. It's only available in Western Canada. This program needs to be made national and permanent.
Trade will also be a big focus for the CCA working into 2021, particularly with foreign markets.
We need trade. We're 100% behind free trade around the world. We need a strong World Trade Organization. Our immediate focus is on developing good trading relationships with the UK before January of 2021. In Ottawa, we're really promoting how valuable cattle production is to the environment and what a good thing it is to the environment.
The reopening of meat plants in Canada has also allowed companies like McDonald's to move back towards using 100% Canadian beef in their products.
McDonald's Canada has gone back to, or will be back to 100% Canadian beef in September. They had to drop a little bit because of supply issues during the Cargill shutdown, but they've assured us by September they'll be back to 100% Canadian beef. They're also going to add the quarter pounder to their CRSB sustainable beef program, which is really good news. It shows that this sustainable movement is, people are willing to pay for it.
The CCA will be hosting another town hall for producers sometime in September, with more coming on that from the CCA. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
Now we'll take a look at your egg prices. Earlier in the year, before the NHL's Combine was canceled, the Arizona Coyotes were accused of holding private workouts for prospects before the Combine. Now the NHL has handed out their punishment. Evan Kenny and Eric Bay have more.
Joining me today to discuss the world of sports is Eric Bay. Eric, thanks for joining me again on this weekly meeting.
Hey, no problem. Always a pleasure, and especially with a ton of sports to talk about.
Yeah, and the sports today that we will be talking about is the Arizona Coyotes got handed out their fine. They will be losing their 2020 first round pick and their 2020 second round, or rather 2021 second round pick, and this is due to tampering with players before the NHL Combine. Eric, first of all, I just want to get your opinions. Do you think this discipline was enough?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're talking about combine and stuff, I guess, yes, they would have tampered a little bit and stretched the rules, but I don't think this is the gravest thing that anyone's ever done. It does hurt, though, just from a team perspective. When you look at the Coyotes, obviously those picks are very important. And for a team that hasn't done so well drafting and developing recently and is still trying to, be a team on the rise, this is really going to hurt them, I think, for the next few years. It's going to be felt.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I mean, the 2 picks, it hurts Arizona more than it would hurt a lot of teams. And one thing that we have seen from Arizona is that their lack of development in later rounds is really starting to catch up to them and is starting to hurt them as well. They don't have a general manager right now to really be sorting them through this process, as John Chicka, I guess, parted ways with the Arizona Coyotes. This was a big reason for it. But just, Eric, going through their prospect pool, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, it isn't super strong outside of their first-round picks.
Yeah, and that's really been the story for the Arizona Coyotes recently, and especially when you look at John Chayka's tenure, and obviously he hasn't been or wasn't there for very long, 3-4 years, so there's still plenty of time for some of these prospects to kind of develop. But when you look at his kind of draft history, the only players who have seen any action, that is, are only first-round picks in Barrett Hayton, Jacob Chychrun, and Clayton Keller, so guys that you're supposed to be hitting on. And even then, I would say that none of them have really developed, I think, as much as you would have hoped over the last few years. And even going back to before John Chayka's tenure, and you look at some of the prospects that still were developing when his time has come, and really the only ones that are kind of out of the blue or maybe later round picks that you don't really expect are guys like Connor Garland, and that's one guy. And I mean, you look at the Oilers right now and what their problems are with depth. It's the same thing in Arizona, and obviously, again, that's going to be an issue if you can't develop those later guys. How are you going to continue to make your team better and become a contender? And then again, as we've mentioned before, losing those 2 picks, that's really going to hurt that development and the future. Yeah,
Garland, as you mentioned, was a 5th-round pick, 123rd overall in the 2015 draft when Chicka was a assistant general manager rather than the general manager. Now, his big philosophy was all about stats and that side of the game. Eric, do you think that this test with John Chicka, do you think it was a success, or do you think it went down the drain?
Well, you tell me. Arizona was, 11th overall in the Western Conference this year, hadn't made the playoffs in his tenure, and we've talked about the drafting. So I would say it was a pretty big failure on that point. And you look at some of the other, young GMs around the league who are supposed to be these stat heads, and Kyle Dubas was also kind of the poster child for this movement. And you look at what Toronto's doing. Yes, they do have some good stars, but it hasn't gotten them out of the first round. So again, I think you can use those fancy stats to a point, and obviously it's the Corsi's and the Fenwicks what we're talking about. But again, I think with hockey too, more so than something like baseball, which is very stat heavy, you still have to pass the eye test, and there's a ton of things you can't measure. And for me as well, it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. At what point does Corsi determine if you have a good team, or is it because you have a good team that you have a good Corsi, and vice versa? So again, I think this kind of maybe not proves it, but shows that you can't just rely on stats alone, and you still do need some more of that front office and past experience running teams and scouting talent.
For sure. Chicka was the youngest GM hired in all of professional sports in North America at the time of his hirement, and it seemed like he tried to play Moneyball, but with players that cost too much money. He had over 6 players getting paid over $5 million this past season, and when you're not developing players, like we've mentioned through the draft, that's just too much to be paying a whole lineup worth of guys, especially when you're trying to go for that depth. Another place that they didn't develop well was specifically the 2017 draft. Out of the players that they drafted in that season, only one of them being Tyler Steenbergen, who was on the Canadian World Junior Gold Medal team. He was the only one still on the team. Other players who were drafted and are no longer with the Coyotes organization include Nolan Hoffermeyer, who just won the CHL's Defenseman of the Year, Mackenzie Entwistle, who's a two-time OHL champion, and Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who was their first round pick that they traded away. So they haven't been able to develop those guys to really fill in those spots when you can't pay that much money. Now, Eric, how do you think this will affect Arizona just quickly here in the future?
Yeah, again, I think we're going to see this, and then obviously you look at the losing picks. I think it's going to be tough. And you mentioned too about spending money. They also hamstrung themselves by taking on contracts like Chris Pronger and Pavel Datsyuk. So again, I think we're going to see a little bit more short-term pain in the state of Arizona for the next few years, I would say.
Well, Eric, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you, especially when it is about hockey. Thanks for taking this time.
For sure.
Now we're Connor Chan. We'll take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. As we take a look at temperatures right now, we did drop a degree right now compared to what we saw in the last couple of minutes there. So 16 degrees right now is what we're sitting at, as well as in Edmonton, Edson, and Whitecourt, along with Jasper. 17 degrees right now in Cold Lake, Rocky Mountain House as well. Red Deer at 18 degrees, with Athabasca sitting at 15 degrees right now. Over in the Saskatchewan areas right now, we see 18 degrees in Saskatoon, 16 in Meadow Lake, and then 17 degrees for Prince Albert, and 15 out in Melfort. As we look over in the northern areas, fairly warm, especially in the Saskatchewan parts right now. As we see in Uranium City, we see in single digits up further north at 9 degrees. Stony Rapids at 10 right now, with Laurent and Wollaston Lake both sitting at 11, with Laloche, Buffalo Narrows, and South End all sitting at 14 degrees. Over in the northern Alberta areas right now, it's a little bit warmer for the most part there. At Grand Prairie at 18 right now, and 16 for Slave Lake, with 17 for Fort McMurray, and then 13 we see in Fort Chipewyan in high level as well, and then Peace River sitting at 15 degrees. Over in the southern areas, they continue to still be fairly warm with that 20 degree mark there in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. Calgary just shy of 20 degrees, sitting at 19. Coronation sitting at 18, and then Banff sits right now at 14 degrees. Over in southern Saskatchewan, we see temperatures just shy of that 20 degree mark, especially in Moose Jaw and Kindersley, along with Swift Current and Regina. And then Yorkton sits at 17, while Estevan does sit over 20 degrees at 21 right now. Now, here's what it looks like across the rest of the country. We see fairly similar temperatures, those high 10s to then low 20s there. So Toronto at 22 degrees, Winnipeg at 16 degrees, Quebec City at 19 right now, with St. John's at 14, and then Halifax right now sitting at 16 degrees. Vancouver with some cloud coverage over there out west at 19, with Edmonton sitting at 16 degrees, I mentioned earlier, with some cloud coverage there, and then some Yellowknife at 10. Yellowknife sitting at 10 degrees, excuse me. But as we look at what we see tomorrow, we could be a little bit warmer compared to what we are now, just by up a couple degrees there. 19 degrees will be the average we'll see for most of the area here tomorrow in Lloydminster, Vermilion, Marwayne, and Maidstone as well. Vegreville also sitting at 19 degrees tomorrow. Edmonton sitting at 20 tomorrow for them, and then Bonnyville, Cold Lake, Pearson also seeing 19 degrees tomorrow. Then Provost and Wainwright will see 20 degrees tomorrow, with Macklin at 21, and then we'll see 18s also in Meadow Lake, St. Walburg, and Green Lake as well. And then North Battleford will see 19 degrees tomorrow for their daytime high. We are going to see fairly heavy winds for the most part in this Midwest region here, as we are going to be over 30-kilometer-an-hour winds for tomorrow. But as we take a look at Wednesday, 15 degrees the daytime high with some showers at a 65% chance rate there. We could get up to 5 millimeters of rain for Wednesday, and then 19 for Thursday, and then 21 degrees for Friday with some cloud coverage as we get ready for that September long weekend there. 18 on Saturday, and then 15 on Sunday, and then with a low of 1 degree. So it is going to be a fairly cooler day on Sunday there, and then 13 we'll see on Monday with that high of 8 degrees. But that is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
Guy Dudding joins me today. He's a co-chair of the Bordertown Toy Run and also a member of the Bordertown Harley Owners Group. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
No problem. Thanks for asking.
So just starting off, can you just tell me a little bit, the Toy Run's going to be on Saturday, September 12th. Can you just tell me a little bit more about the event?
Well, this was supposed to be our 10th annual. We're certainly not calling it our 10th annual with the COVID rules in place. So we still are going to run a day. It's going to be a highly modified day from what we've traditionally done in the past to meet the current rules.
And so what this is obviously going to be the 10th year you're doing it, not calling it the 10th annual. What kind of things are going to change versus previous years?
Oh, that ranges from, we've done nothing in terms of any corporate solicitation for our poster. Typically, we've brought in close to $50,000 for our charities just on corporate side. And, you know, with the economic conditions out there, we didn't feel right to go out and solicit for any of that. Because of the COVID rules, we've had to change anything that has a large gathering. So what that means is that our breakfast is canceled, the banquet and the cabaret are also canceled.
Now, continuing on, you're asking people to bring toys and money. What are the toys going to be going towards?
Well, actually, we're not even going to be asking for toys this year, again, for the fact that we don't want to be collecting them, be touching them, having to clean them. So we're not even doing toys. So really what the day is down to, host is still going to be, or registration is still going to be at Denham Chrysler on the 10 o'clock on Saturday, September the 12th, sorry. We'll run from 10 to 12. And we're going to steal the idea of Rib Fest, truthfully, and we're going to have a ride-in registration. So what you're going to see is riders are going to literally ride in. We'll have our registration team masked up, ready to go with registration forms. The riders will register and continue on, and they're going to follow their own route at their own speed, at their own stops. And that's going to be the start and the finish of the toy run this year. So any monies that we collect day of will be divided amongst our charities. So our charities are on board in terms of they know we're not coming to them with checks for $20,000 each this year.
And in previous years, the toy run raised quite a bit amount of money. Obviously, it's going to be scaled down this year. What charities are you partnering with this year?
We're still going with the same. So our three main charities are Lloydminster Big Brother Big Sister, Kids Sport, and the Youth Center. So and we've also helped out some of smaller charities around Lloydminster, and we'll see kind of what we have dollar wise after the day to make some final determinations. But everybody knows that, you know, we're happy, I guess, that we're able to run an event. It's certainly not the event that we're used to running. It's not the event that we want to run, but you know, because of the rules and regulations, we have to, because what the last thing we want to do is contravene the rules. There'd be a trace back to the toy run. And, you know, our chapter and everybody that's been involved for the first 9 years have done such a tremendous job to get it to the point that it is. We don't want to have any type of negative feedback on it.
Was there any fear that you wouldn't be able to put on a toy run at all this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, we put our committee together. We had one in-person toy run meeting, and then the world changed. And so we've been sitting and waiting for numbers. And, you know, the exhibition has been fantastic in terms of holding a date for us, but it just came to the point where we had to make a call because we're 2 weeks out of what we're able to do safely. So this is the only thing that we're able to do safely.
And is the event open to anyone who wants to participate?
Absolutely, same as ever. So we'll still have our waivers that we got to follow the same. So any 2- and 3-wheeled motorcycle with legal riders are certainly welcome to attend. Anybody from the general public who wants to come down and donate, and all the money goes to charities. We don't keep anything as a chapter. Certainly walk in, give us a donation, and then we'll ask you to leave because we can't have social distance. We're going to maintain social distancing. But no, I mean, we're hoping that, I guess, hopeful that the weather is going to cooperate on the 12th, that we get a large turnout like we typically get. And unfortunately, you know, what you're going to see is what we're able to provide.
And something else I wanted to talk with you about, just kind of in your role as a Harley rider here in Lloydminster. Last week we heard that Edge Harley-Davidson would be closing their doors. What's your reaction to that, and what is that going to mean for Harley riders here in Lloydminster now that they don't have that here in the city?
Well, I guess big picture, I mean, it's sad to see that we're going to lose our dealership for the reasons that we're losing our dealership. So I guess from a local rider, Harley rider, I mean, the fact that we're not going to have our dealer, and the fact that we're losing another business in Lloydminster is disturbing. The fact of where you're going to go, well, I guess our options are Edmonton or Saskatoon for a for a Harley dealer in terms of getting any work done and so on and so forth. But no, I mean, it's disappointing for sure. I mean, Clinton Beatrice have put a lot of time and effort to get their dealership to where it is, but economic conditions and a decision by Harley Canada, and we're not sure exactly what all went on. It's just sad. It's sad to see another, regardless of the reasons, it's sad to see another business leave Lloydminster.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for taking some time to talk with me. So just to clarify again, Saturday, September 12th, people are able to come in, register. Things are going to be different this year, but I wish you the best of luck as you're still running a 9.5 annual toy run.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, we look forward to seeing as many people out on the 12th as possible.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm speaking with Mansoor Azim today. How are you?
Good. Fortunate.
The third annual run for Lloydminster had to be postponed due to COVID. What is this all involved for this run?
Well, the final nail in the coffin was definitely COVID-19, right? For some time, we were having the board meetings for the annual Run for Lloydminster. It was the third year, was supposed to be the third year for Run for Lloydminster. And due to the pandemic, we didn't want to cause any new problem or add to any problem that already has been for our healthline workers, for our frontline workers. We didn't want to, cause any new problem for them. We didn't want to cause any new problem for our country, who is trying so hard, physical distancing, not wasting one another, trying everything that they can to eliminate this virus. And, all of a sudden, for the healthcare that we, for last two runs, we were actually fundraising for the local healthcare. And it would not be appropriate to cause any new problems for them by having a run at this time during a pandemic.
Exactly.
And definitely the one more thing that we considered other than this, by, having we considered this in a virtual way as well. We saw some other runs having virtually as well. But, one more thing that were discussed in the board meeting was that, that would be some of a burden to the shoulders of, some of the we acknowledge and appreciate the local businesses. It was because of them that we were able to hold or organize the fundraisers and the successful events that we had in the past for 2 years. And due to our members of the community and the members in Lloydminster, during a pandemic, we have acknowledged that we have seen that some of the big businesses and some of the members can barely survive the pandemic. Their businesses are not as it was before. And during this time when they are barely able to survive and barely able to feed their family, at this time asking for a fundraiser and asking for something, I think that would be, something that we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. And has the Muslim community received lots of support in the past for this run especially?
We have, we really appreciate the businesses, local businesses and the community members. It was because of them that for the last 2 years that we were organizing this run, even for the first time that we did, we raised more than $10,000. Even for the second one, we raised more than $10,000. And it's a huge amount for a small community. And that was because of the community members and also because of the local businesses, really supportive businesses that we received this support.
Mm-hmm. And do you happen to know exactly when the run will be postponed to instead?
We're not sure because of the pandemic. We are not sure. Definitely, if we used to have this run in September, and that was quite the time when, kind of the last time when you can arrange a run. Afterwards, there will be winter, and we will definitely not be able to organize it. So maybe next year, if the situations are all right.
Exactly, basing on COVID-19, how it goes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you guys won't be doing a virtual run instead. It'll definitely just be postponed entirely.
Definitely. But there are some other things that our community is doing. For example, there's a neighborhood campaign that we are doing in which we provide free groceries to all the people who are in need. People can approach us to our social media platforms, and there is also a number over there that we have provided. There's some flyers that we have distributed as well. And, if you are in need of anything like grocery or running errands or anything, we provide free groceries and free medicines as well to people, to those who are in need. And this is just one campaign that we are helping right now, people who are in need in Lloydminster. There are some, you can say, groceries that we have provided to the food banks as well. Other than this, we are also doing some voluntary efforts. For example, highway cleanup that we are planning to do in the near future before the winter comes and before the snow covers all the thing. So we have taken a part of the highway that will be cleaning up before the winter. So these are the few things that we will be doing, instead of the run.
And what other ways can residents help raise money now since the run won't be happening?
I'm not sure. There definitely are other events and things happening right now. I know the communities, the businesses who gave us checks and gave us money, they can directly go to the Lloydminster Region Health Foundation, the ones that we do fundraise for, and they can donate to them directly if they want. And there definitely are other ways in Lloydminster. There are some runs happening all across. There are some other programs as well. There are other city events as well. So members can participate in that area as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Mansoor, and best of luck to you. And hopefully the run will be able to happen in the future once this pandemic is over.
For sure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, taking one last look here at your weather forecast. We will see a daytime high there of 19 degrees tomorrow with increased winds there. Over 30 kilometers an hour expected there. 15 on Wednesday with some showers up to maybe 5 millimeters of rain. 19 on Thursday, 21 on Friday with some cloud coverage there as we get ready for that long weekend. 18 on Saturday, 15 on Sunday, and then 13 degrees on Monday.
Thanks for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.